All right, all right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, whatever part of the world you are in.
And welcome to Geopolitics and Conflict
Live, indeed. Well, we have a packed show for you today. So first of all, thanks to all of those who've been waiting. So we're gonna talk a lot about a host of issues, but first we
We
wanna
want to thank you
yeah.
for. We do this every time, but it keeps impressing us. The number of comments and how positive they are, how thoughtful they are, and how they contribute information to us that we didn't otherwise have. Keep the comments coming, and thank you so much.
Well, indeed, Ross, and we're not gonna stop saying thank you for that because they truly very, very impressive. And there are some, of course, that they kind of get out of line, if I may use the term, and I tend to respond directly to this because of the respect we have for our viewers.
Correct.
So we're not gonna tolerate nor will allow any abusive language because of the respect we have for our viewers. And usually I send a note, one more chance for those people, or I block them out completely. Why again? Because the respect we have for you, and you deserve it. So we thank you so much for that. And also we want to thank our Patreon members. There are some new members just joined us. We want to thank them for their support, and for you just to know, of course, if you like our videos and you want to support us, consider joining a membership on a Patreon. So thank you so much for your support.
Well, David, the topic today is Turkmenistan, which many people never heard of. But so much is going on this past week. Maybe we could ask you to comment on some of those things because these are really game changers.
That's correct. Well, before we launch into that, Ross, we want to let our viewers about few changes we're going to be having into the show. So,
oh yes,
some good stuff will be coming. Well, first, usually this is a response to some of your comments. Some of our viewers have suggested that we bring in some individuals well known in the world of business, economics, geopolitics for interviews. Well, as a matter of fact, we started that this week, and we're gonna be releasing those interviews to you so you can learn about other stuff from well-renowned individuals. The second thing we're gonna add to the show is we decided to do what we call a roundtable discussions. And this basically what it will be, is just we're gonna break down the issues of geopolitics to the human side level. In other words, how we as humans can relate to all this in a very, very simple language, and also in a simple format, but also like we do in our homes over the kitchen table when we talk about issues and all that stuff.
We're actually attempting intelligent, real conversation.
Exactly.
And it's all spontaneous.
Exactly. That's what we're going to be doing. So we call that one a roundtable. So look for that, and we'll send some announcements and all this stuff. So we wanted to let you know about that. So, well, indeed, as Ross mentioned, we'll be talking today about Turkmenistan. And why is that important? You will know why. But before that, we're gonna do what we call the tour around the world, see what's going on, and we go from there.
Russia's fired warning shots at a British destroyer.
Indeed, Ross, that was an event that just happened about yesterday. When Russia fired some warning shots to a British naval vessel. So NATO seems to be now encroaching on where the Black Sea, on the waters of Russia. So of course the Brits are saying no, we are navigating according to the UN international water stuff. Well, personally, and I'm not defending Russia here, but that's nonsense. We all know how many miles Russia has when it comes down to the Black Sea. So why Britain is going all the way to the Black Sea to aggravate the Russians?
Right.
No, that to me doesn't make sense. So,
well, Vladimir Putin keeps saying, look, we just want to be left alone. We want peace. And you keep encroaching on us. And with your missile systems, with your ships, with your massing of troops.
Well, that's exactly what happened. So,
okay. Russia has threatened to leave the ISS over new U.S. sanctions.
Oh yeah, I read a report about that one. And what was interesting about that is the timing of it, Ross. When Russia said that they threatened to leave ISS, well, because we all know where the issue there. And the issue is that the US uses the Russian space shuttles. You know, we kind of purchase the seats to get to the ISS. But the reason also is because Russia realized now that China, it's getting its space station, the Chinese space station indeed, ready. So which means they are thinking, the Russians thinking in terms of China's gonna cooperate with the Russians. So why the Russians have to be supporting the US when it comes down to ISS anyway? So I think it's a shrewd move by the Russians because they already seeing where China is going, and they just launched the 3 astronauts 3 days ago, 4 days ago?
Almost a week, I think.
A week almost, yes.
It's been fascinating watching them.
And we did the video on the first module of the space station. They're moving ahead and fast into that. So,
China's very first private high-speed railway project has completed laying its tracks.
Oh, that's an interesting one. The reason we wanted to just mention that to you is it looks like the high-speed rail, China's not going to be controlled only by the government. They're moving it to the private sector also for investments. I mean, when you have 77 million miles of high-speed, you can just see. So I see the investment opportunities into this, especially if and when China opens up that door for foreign investors. And I am certain there will be some American investors will not want to miss that opportunity.
If they're not already there.
That's for sure. That's for sure.
Just 2 more items to cover here.
Sure.
You know, the developer of the McAfee software to protect you from hackers and so on, he was found dead in a jail cell.
Oh, yeah. John McAfee was found dead yesterday in a Spanish jail in Barcelona. You know, what's interesting about the guy is he doesn't like U.S. taxes, and his rationale for that is because of the what's the word I'm looking for? How corrupted the system is.
Yeah.
So he refused to pay taxes altogether. Yes, the mistake he made that he went on Twitter and bragged about it. Well, you don't brag about, you don't pay taxes, you don't pay taxes. But there are some issues with this tax system. So, and the last one we want to talk about
the president of Afghanistan is currently, or within a couple of hours, going to meet with President Biden.
That's correct, Ross. That is correct. So what was interesting about this? And this is where you guys, when you think of geopolitics, you think of the big picture. So you think of this meeting is going to be taking place in the White House, and you think also of what China is going to be doing with Turkmenistan, which is the subject of our talks today. So this is where, again, we're trying to break this down for you to have a better understanding. Well, what's interesting about this meeting is that this is like a goodbye meeting. That's the way I see it. So Ashraf Ghani, we're the one who puts him here in power. He used to work for the World Bank. So you can read between the lines. So it's somebody we put in power over there. But also because the US realizes that they couldn't defeat the Taliban. The Taliban took over 50 provinces so far. So if I am to guess, and this is just a guess and it's my opinion, it's by the end of the year, probably they're going to run over Kabul. I won't be surprised.
Which means it will be a Taliban-run state.
That's it. So which means what in big picture? 20 years that the US have spent so much money, lost in blood.
2 trillion?
Over that. So as a matter of fact, as of today, we're still spending $3.5 billion on supporting Afghan military. So it's kind of like, okay, when this is going to stop? You know, the waste of our tax money. That's, yes, we want to support a country like Afghanistan, but at the same time, till when? They got issues. So we wanted just to highlight to you this one here, but also why it's important. It's because, so for you to have an understanding why China is going to eventually establish ties with the Taliban as part of the BRI, and those dynamics, this is what shapes the geopolitics overall.
Can we say it's already happening rather than eventually?
It is. It is. You're absolutely correct, Ross. It is. So,
Well, let's move on to Turkmenistan.
all right.
How many people have even heard of it?
Yeah.
Turkmenistan has this golden opportunity to supply natural gas to Beijing. Turkmenistan has a population of about 5.6 million, which is small.
Mm-hmm.
It has 1/6 of the world's reserve of natural gas, and it was part of the Soviet Union until 1991.
That's correct. When they gained independence on October 27th.
And now it looks like there's, with the opportunities fading for Australia, that this is a wonderful opportunity for Turkmenistan to supply natural gas to Beijing, which is where they're moving away from coal anyway.
Yeah.
With good reason. Of being in Beijing and seeing that you can't even look across the street clearly with the coal, they're doing the right thing, and Turkmenistan is in a perfect position to do something about it.
Well, that's correct. This is why we wanted to discuss this issue today. And of course, we're going to open up the floor for your questions after we do, 20, 30 minutes conversation, whatever. And we'll open up the floor for your questions. Well, personally, the way I see the importance of this is again, I will never stop saying this, the geopolitical and economic incentives for such a move. It is a move that will pave the way for China on so many levels.
Oh yeah, and you've been to this part of the world.
I've been in Ashgabat, the capital of Turkmenistan. It's a different regime, different system, and altogether it's a small country, as you mentioned. But to them, this is a golden opportunity. This is like you hit the jackpot.
Yeah.
So, yeah, because here is why. China is gonna fund the pipeline.
Right.
So, which means it's a big deal. It's a big deal for Turkmenistan that their economy can go up with that. But it's also in line with what China is doing with Indonesia.
Right.
And soon I've even read some reports that China is in a conversation with Bangladesh.
Oh, how interesting.
It is interesting indeed. And till I read enough on it before we do a show, I'd like to be well informed on this. But just to go back to Turkmenistan, so the idea of China's considering importing gas, knowing that China has a contract with Russia for 30 years to import gas from Russia. And it tells you what? It tells you the consumption of energy China is going to need to keep fueling its economy.
Exactly.
Yeah. There are those who have been arguing, Ross, that, China's not going to need all this energy. That's nonsense. The latest research that I conducted found that the IEA, the International Energy Agency, estimated that China is going to need about 16 million barrels a day by the end of this decade. So to China makes perfect sense. Turkmenistan is not that far, okay? Central Asia.
And there are already some pipelines going into that region.
There are two already. China's going to build the third one.
Yes.
Because there is one pipeline there that's going to Russia. And guess Russia is bringing gas from that part. Here is what is Western, shall I say, Oil Institute will not tell you. Is that part of the world, especially under the Caspian Sea and Kazakhstan,
which is just north.
Yeah. The massive oil reserves in that part of the world exceeds those in the Middle East.
Isn't that astonishing?
It is. And you never hear about this. You never read about it in the Western, I won't use the term media, Western institutions per se, especially the one funded by the oil industry in the West. So I can just see personally how China's calculating the move, and rightly so. If we are to advise a government, China or otherwise, how to approach this is the course of action. We're going to tell them, hey, why don't you fund a pipeline that will bring gas to you and cut the cost?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what we see is that China keeps doing this over and over again because they've got a basic philosophy of, we're going to take care of Chinese people first, but we want win-win business deals with other countries and other people. And this is a centuries old part of Chinese tradition.
Well, yeah, that's like we always say, Ross. It's a win-win.
Yes.
So whether you like China or not, that's irrelevant.
Right.
You know, like we hear sometimes in a comment, why you guys are supporting China? That's nonsense.
Not true.
That's nonsense. To me, that's a weak argument. Just because we are saying the truth, it does not mean we work for China. We don't work for China. And it's because it's common sense to what China is doing. And if we are to advise an entity or a government or whomever, that's the right course of action. You know?
Right. And you know, we get so many comments from other parts of the world who their observations are, we're in one of those countries and the situation is win-win.
That is true. And this is what China's approaching it from.
All the way from Argentina to Indonesia to you name it.
That's correct.
Not Australia.
No. Well, I'm glad you mentioned Australia, Ross, because this is the other side of the coin.
Yes.
And we're going to say it straightforward. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. If China is punishing Australia.
Clearly.
Yeah, when it comes down to the energy.
It looks like, we're doing this all day, every day.
Yeah.
Virtually every day of the week. And we're seeing the trend is so clearly away from the West, away from the United States, away from Great Britain to China and the East. And China now has developed a real, from their public presentations, a real attitude about, you mess with us, we're not some humble player who's going to take it.
Yeah.
You mess with our internal affairs, we're not messing with yours, and you're just as guilty of everything as we are.
Mm-hmm.
You mess with us, there is a consequence.
Mm-hmm.
And it's economic, and it's immediate.
And this one is an evidence of that, because here's the thing. China has ordered the three main energy companies in China.
Yeah.
The China Oil, I believe. I think I have the name of those institutions.
They're all three of them heavily invested in natural gas in Australia.
Yeah, it's PetroChina.
Yeah.
One of them, and CNOOC.
Yeah.
And Sinopec. Those are the three. Well, China government, Beijing, ordered those three companies to halt the import of natural gas, liquefied natural gas. Two of them are involved in that. So, and to the chagrin of Canberra in Australia, iron ore and natural gas are the cornerstone, one of the cornerstone industries in Australia.
Oh, yeah. And they have been major money producers for the country.
Yeah. So there are those who've argued, and I've seen some comments that, no, you guys are wrong. Australia can do business, can ship its commodities to other countries. Yeah, that's true. They can do that. But logistically speaking,
no one is as close by.
The cost involved in that, they won't be able to do it. And that is one of the reasons. So where we see things going is that soon, once the pipeline is active, China's going to go ahead with a full order of cut off the entire import of liquefied natural gas from Australia and start cutting that. After that is going to be the iron ore.
Right, because there are other places in the world that have iron ore.
That's correct.
Quite a few of them, actually.
So basically what China's doing, and we're going to say it, is killing the monkey to scare the chicken. And rightly so.
And it's working.
It is working, because when you think about the APEC countries, the Asian Pacific Economic countries, and so well, who's in it? Vietnam, Philippines, Laos, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, you name it, South Korea. You can just see this is where I believe, and I don't know if you share with me this opinion or not, Russ, that South Korea, when they made the decision not to join the Quad, is because of that. Not out of fear of China. No.
Well, you take a look at how much trade goes on.
Exactly.
I mean, China is their #1 trade partner. Come on, cut your throat? I don't think so.
Yeah, and this is the mistake Australia made.
Yes.
Big mistake. Well, also because it came to, I was informed recently that the Prime Minister, or former, whatever his name is, Morrison, the guy in charge, he's not worrying. He's worrying about the domestic image rather than worrying about.
You listen to him talk, and you know that it's for domestic consumption.
That's true, and that is part of the problem. So just to go back to the idea of Turkmenistan, this is where it's a golden opportunity for Turkmenistan, because their economy is small. A country of 5.6 to 6 million, it's nothing. I remember when I was there in Ashgabat, and you don't see many people around. So it's kind of...
I understand it's magnificently beautiful.
It is, because, and we're going to do a full show on it, by the way, Ross.
Okay.
And I happen to know a little bit about their history that goes back to 5,750 BC.
That's quite a while.
Yeah, we're not going to talk too much about that one. It's just to highlight to you.
Not every detail.
Yeah, no. No,
years.
we can't. That means this YouTube video will have to be over 10 hours.
Yeah, well.
And we don't want our viewers to get tired of looking at our faces here. So no, it's the idea of the reason I mentioned this is just to highlight how the old civilization in that part of the world.
Oh, yeah.
And this is where, so the idea of this deal between China and Turkmenistan, it's a golden opportunity for them. But also, as we said at the beginning, China's thinking strategically, because when you look at Turkmenistan, what is surrounded by?
Desert. And it's also surrounded by all these major oil producers.
Yeah, you look
in
at
the Middle East.
Yeah, there's Iran, Uzbekistan, there's the Caspian Sea, and there's Turkmenistan. There's the not Azerbaijan.
Yeah,
to a degree. So
and close by is Pakistan and the whole Turkey, and that's the region this is in.
That's correct. That's correct. Where Turkmenistan is, Central Asia, and why is that important? Also because of that's part of where the BRI is going.
Exactly.
So China's thinking about it strategically, and it makes perfect economic sense to do that.
I've wondered if there's going to be any conflict between Russia and Turkmenistan. That right now they have a great relationship. Putin got a dog from them.
That's correct. I don't foresee a problem there. Where I foresee not the problem, but it's like rattling the feathers for the Russians when Chinese decided to do that, because China imports natural gas from Russia, as we all know. And we did say that one. But China's going to balance between the two. It imports more from Russia than it does from. The thing is why China wants to do this. China wants to diversify the sources of.
What a good idea.
Rightly so. You don't want to depend on one country where you can get all your energy. And as we mentioned earlier, the consumption for China by the end of the decade will be about 16 million barrels a day.
One of the skills that the Chinese have is they manage to do business with all sorts of people, like all over the Middle East, and they have friendships everywhere. And they're not taking sides. I don't doubt that they'll do it with Russia and Turkmenistan as well. They'll figure out some wins, so everyone turns out to be relatively happy.
That's correct. Well, speaking on the Middle East, just to piggyback on this quickly, Ross, to follow up on the last video we did about the new president, the Iranian president, Ibrahim Raisi, and how it made that. I mean, we did not predict in a sense, but personally, I could see it going that direction, that he just had a press conference, public one, in which he announced he is pivoting towards the east. So,
shocking!
Yeah,
we've only been talking about it for months.
I know, but that's gonna be freaking out the U.S. now, because U.S. now is gonna be thinking in terms. Mind you, that the United States just withdrew its missile defense systems from Iraq and Saudi Arabia. And speaking of Iraq, one event just happened this morning. I don't know whether we're going to read about it in the West or not. Iraq is now reconsidering the purchase of fighter jets from the East, not the United States. So they don't want to purchase the F-16s anymore. Wow. So pivoting east, it looks to me that we're going to probably see the old Iraq in the Russian sphere of influence.
Because we do this all day, every day, week after month after actually years now, the trend is so clear where this is going.
It is, and
we can feel it.
It is, and we in the United States and the West, for that matter, we having a hard time accepting this. I mean, some of us, not all. I accept it personally. I speak for myself here. The West in general, the political elite, if you will, or the establishment, whatever you want to call it. They are having a hard time accepting this shift, because now you're gonna displace the order all the packing order they used to be. Well, the world changes and we need to change with it. So if we are to do this better, compete.
Exactly.
Yeah. Why encircling a country and diverting all the resources? That's like what, for example, right now, India. And I'm going to jump to this one quickly. Why India is involved in this Quad?
Yeah.
When they have their own internal problems, and you're talking about major. As a matter of fact, they just arrested some press individuals from the press that is doing a crackdown on the press. This is India, so-called democrat. So we all know about the issue of Kashmir.
Oh yeah.
And as a matter of fact, when the scrimmage between China and India happened, guess what India did? They requested assistance from the US. And what the US did?
I think they ignored them.
They turned it, indeed. They turned it down.
They have to.
So
I mean,
so it becomes the logical question. And again, we're talking from a geopolitical aspect here. So pragmatically speaking, it doesn't make sense for China to be involved, for India rather, to be involved in this Quad all of a sudden just because the US says so. But we all know India bows to the US. It's a reality. Sorry to say this.
Necessarily.
It is the reality. So just to go back to the idea of this energy aspects of it. It is becoming clear now that why China is doing what it's doing.
They want the energy. They can easily project the need for this decade, and they're looking for multiple sources for it, and they just found another one.
Exactly. And what you're going to be seeing soon in some Western media is about China suppressing the Turkmenistan for business economics and all this stuff. So manipulating basically, which is not true, because the funding of the pipeline, it was an agreement between the two. China said, because they have the money.
Yeah.
They said they will be willing, which Turkmenistan agreed to because it will provide them an ability not only to generate wealth, but also to diversify their energy sector. And China is willing to help them in 3 other sectors: financial, technology, and infrastructure.
Nice.
So if you are the head of a country, why would you turn this down?
How about jump at the chance?
Exactly. And this is where we see the importance of this, and that's why we wanted to talk to you about this one here. So, and we're gonna open it for questions for you guys. If you have any questions, we'll answer those for you. And just to let you know, we're gonna be doing a full show about this because it's a topic that is not covered much here. I personally see the geopolitical impact of it on the energy level. And especially if China can devote,
this could be considered part of clear signaling of the shift to the east,
exactly,
and the independence of China, Russia, and so on. Clearly, it's going that direction. This is just another indicator.
You're absolutely correct, Russ. And whoever does not want to admit to that, does not want to accept that reality, I think is in denial, basically. So, all right. Let's see some of your questions. Boone, good to see you, Boone. Okay, the question is, does the new UK naval ship sailing into Crimea area have anything to do with this? No, it does not. It does not. This is on a separate thing. It's because they wanted to, when I say they, NATO in this context, it's just any creation of disruptions. It's kind of no, I don't see the link between the two. Those are on 2 separate tracks, if you will. Just before I forget, speaking of UK now, I just find out that the Brexit, it's impacting their economy big time. And London has lost the status of the financial hub. And guess who has that? And I just had a talk with my family in Holland.
No.
Amsterdam now is the hub for the financial, and there are about 7,500 jobs being shed from the financial sector in England.
Wow.
So England is losing big time. So the answer, Boone, no, they are not linked together. They are 2 separate ones. All right, let's see the next one. Sunbird, thank you so much for your question, and thank you for being here. So we appreciate your support. The question is, what do Australian industry leaders think of all this, or are they supportive of their government foreign policies? Well, that is a good question. That is a good question. There's a talk behind the scenes that, based on the info that I got, that yeah, some industry leaders are not content with how Canberra has embarked on these policies because it's impacting the bottom line. So now what you need to understand is that it's unlike in the United States. The business community, the well-established one, they do have an influence here on the White House or on American politics. As a matter of fact, the whole Congress is run because of businesses.
That's who pays for their election and re-election
Yeah,
campaigns.
Australia doesn't. Yeah, Australia is not at that level, but there is a frustration among the business community. Yes, you will hear the comments. Well, we need to stand up for our rights and values, and which I concur with and all that. But sometimes you're gonna have to be pragmatic into where to kind of lay, and I won't say lay low, but understand you don't have to do this chest thumping and all that. No need for that. When you have the whole, your economy depends to a great degree on that relationship with China.
Exactly right.
So,
and that's what we see, chest thumping.
That's all it is. So, next question. Sahan, I'm sorry, I couldn't pronounce the last name. But thank you so much for your question, and thank you for being here. The question is, will West sanction smaller nations not picking sides? I am from Sri Lanka, so thank you for being here. We kind of start having human rights accusations since our government refused to dump China after Pompeo's visit.
Really?
Wow.
Really?
Thank you for sharing that from Sri Lanka. I was aware of some issues with Sri Lanka, not a lot, but and one of the comments one time get is to do a show on Sri Lanka, and we're gonna do that. Yeah. So you're absolutely correct, because and I do remember Pompeo's visit. You know, usually at that time it was to pave the way for establishing the countries that will encircle. Because remember, as we all know in politics, you have to build up the public support
exactly
for stuff like that. So yes, that was that one. And when Sri Lanka's kind of no, they didn't want to go that route, which is exactly what South Korea did, which is exactly why Indonesia, that's why Indonesia went ahead and dumped the US. I'll use the term dumped the US for China, because they realized economically it makes perfect sense. So yeah, you're gonna see some of that in your country. It's sad enough, but Sri Lanka needs to do what is good for the Sri Lankan people.
Exactly.
That's what's important.
And interestingly enough,
yeah,
you hear that over and over again from China. We're doing the best for our people. Putin says we're doing the best for our people. And it's shocking that there's a country that doesn't say that.
Yeah.
And we won't name that country, but we live in it.
We live in it. You're right. Next one is Kadero. Thank you very or Kader. I'm sorry, Kader. Thank you very much for your question. Will this not be stepping on Russia's sphere of influence? Not if they come to an agreement, because I do remember the China when it signed the contract with Russia. That was for over 30 years. You know, as long as China does not import the entire energy needs, or natural gas in this case, from Turkmenistan, they will be fine. They will work out those differences. Yes, China is sort of rubbing the feathers of the Russians when it comes down to natural gas, because Russia has an abundance of natural gas, as you know, but China's gonna walk a delicate balance between the two. So I don't foresee any problems with that. And as a matter of fact, even the US today, when I say today, the last couple of days, have criticized now Nord Stream 2.
Oh, no.
Again.
Because you bought gas from Russia, not us?
Exactly.
Just because
yeah, and Russia's going to be delivering about 1 billion cubic feet. That's how much they're going to do. So the short answer is I don't see any problems coming up. TC, thank you for being here, and thank you for your question. will China be able to reduce their reliance on coal in terms of percentage of total energy consumption?
That's what the numbers say.
That's what as Russ mentioned, and Russ,
We've been tracking that, and the lines are going down for coal and other energy sources, nuclear, natural gas, solar, all the rest are going up.
Yeah, and this is what explains, just to tie your question to what Russ said, explains why China went ahead and signed the agreement with Russia to build the 4 nuclear power plants.
That's right.
That's one of them. And now with Turkmenistan, you can just see, as Russ mentioned, the
reliance on coal
is going down, and the reliance on other sources. And for China, it needs to diversify its sources of import. So that's so yes, the answer is yes. They're gonna get rid of the coal. Lex Noran, thank you for being here, and thank you for your question. What do you think would happen to Australia when the shift of China natural gas purchase from Australia to Turkmenistan is completed? Great question.
Oh boy.
Great question. And this type of questions, those are the ones that will have those geopolitical implications, because it goes beyond just energy. Well, basically, the way I see it, and I'm no energy analyst because that's not my area, and I don't claim to know much except understanding the impact of energy on geopolitics and vice versa. But basically, where I see it going is that if and when China decide no more import from Australia and natural gas, you're gonna see companies going into bankruptcy, and I don't know if the Australian government will be able to subsidize that for a long period of time.
I would actually suspect a new government will be formed in Canberra.
Yeah, and that's gonna become now the responsibility of the Australian people.
That's their choice.
That's their choice to decide.
Right.
Who am I to criticize Morrison? That's not my business, because I mean, it's not. I'm not an Aussie, and I have respect for Australians, but they're gonna have to decide on that. But the bottom line answer to your question is the energy sector in Australia will be hit hard, very, very hard, and especially when China decides no more iron ore either. So that's unfortunate.
And our prediction is it's coming.
It's coming. Next one. Beginner's Mind, good to see you again, and thank you for your question. President Xi and President Putin will be speaking within a couple of days. What will they talk about, and what kind of significance there will be of their video call conference? Yes, indeed, they're gonna be a conference. I'm keeping an eye on it. I didn't want to say much about it yet till I read up on it, but if I am to, and this is again just my opinion, or else you might have a different opinion on this, but if I am to, I would like to use the term guess on something like this, but if I am to think, or if I am to analyze this one here, given the outcome of the G7 and NATO summits,
yes,
and how Russia and China were the focus of the meeting, and with the US
attempting to encircle them,
China, and with now the latest incident of the Britain naval in the Black Sea, I can just see the conversation. It's not going to go into that level because those are enters into the sensitive aspects of operations. But I can just see some coordination of sorts.
I was going to say more and more cooperation on every level.
Yeah, and this time it might go into some military dimension to it.
Oh no,
that's a possibility.
What a surprise!
Yeah,
they're being encircled by military,
and then
they might coordinate their own military.
Which, can you imagine the two of them together? And I am sure if you add Iran to the mix,
yes,
imagine the three of them, Russia, China, and Iran together, all of them. You add those capabilities.
Oh yeah,
yeah. You're talking about some major. It'll tip off the balance of power. That just comes. So that would be one of the things to talk about. Second thing is going to have to do probably a discussion about how they're going to proceed with this energy aspect. Energy is always a key conversation between the two countries, given how much energy it needs. So, Michael Fu, thank you very much for being here, Michael, and thank you for your comments. I read your comments. I truly appreciate it. You said, I know you are going to do a full show on Turkmenistan, but can you briefly talk about their political situation, both domestic and abroad?
Ooh.
Yeah, well, briefly, it is a regime that very, I won't use the term repressing everything, but there's not a lot of, so shall we say, freedom of the press, if you will.
Severe controlling.
Yeah, it's very different. I don't like to use the term repressive. It just systems. When I say systems, government, that is, they live according to whatever works for them. Who are we to judge them or decide on? Well, no, you need to live this way or that way. And so that's one thing. And as I said, when I was there back then in Ashgabat, I mean, I didn't feel anything as far as, the government pressure on me or this or that. No, none of that. So, but yes, the system, you don't hear much about Turkmenistan. I mean, when was the last time we hear about Turkmenistan in the news?
Almost never.
You don't hear much because the information is controlled inside. It's a small, even though it's the largest land mass, but small population.
And the number of visitors is extremely limited and very difficult to get into the country.
Yeah, and also a lot of people will not understand that old history because you're talking about the Mongols, you're talking about the Soviets, and there's a lot of history into that country, but you won't hear much. So, and even when we're gonna do the full show about it, we will talk about that aspect to a degree, but we're gonna think about it from a geopolitical and what does it mean given its strategic location, because it is strategically located.
Just to emphasize a point you said before, we really are not into telling other people how to live their lives.
That's true.
Or sitting in critical judgment. We're here to give you information for you to make up your own mind.
That's true.
What a concept.
Yeah. Thank you for that question. Next one, Forrest Lee. Thank you so much for your question, and thank you for being here, Forrest. Since China is building close relations with many Muslim countries, where Western has historical records. That is true to a degree because China is looking at it from a business perspective. China doesn't care what your relation is. When China decided to sign the agreement with Iran, they didn't care. I mean, do you know Iran is a Shia country? It's not a Sunni. There is a difference between Sunnis and Shiites. China didn't care for that. China looked at it again from a strategic perspective. Doing business with Iran in this case, or signing an agreement or establishing relationships, opens up the door for China into the Middle East. And all this has to do not about taking over the Middle East or replacing the United States. No, they don't care for that. They want to secure access to energy. That is the bottom line for what China is doing this. So the idea of China, for example, with Indonesia, you got some communities in Indonesia. Soon it's going to be in Malaysia, then Bangladesh. Then yes, they do establish relations with certain countries like that they're not criticizing. They're not, you look at what the West does when you start criticizing countries about how they treat inhuman this, human that. Why the US is not saying anything about what India is doing to the press right now?
Right.
Why the United States or the West, for that matter, is not saying about what Saudi Arabia is doing to people in Yemen? Why the United States is not saying anything about Bahrain and United Arab Emirates for the atrocities they committed in prison for holding people unjustly?
It seems to be a pretty obvious observation that neither Russia nor China is looking to the US with the need to have an adversary. Yeah. Whereas the United States seems to need to have an adversary to continue to function.
Well, that falls back to the point we talked about in the last video, Ross, about the doctrine that was established since 1953. The US does not need to win a war. The US needs to be in a constant conflicts to justify weapons and all that stuff.
One of the predictions that you and I have discussed is that cannot continue. They simply can't afford it.
And this is why this is why we decided to do that roundtable, because roundtable talks is going to be addressing those kind of issues, but from within here, because you get the millennials, if you will, or it doesn't matter, millennials or not. You get now conversation inside the United States that people they start to question. where's the countries going? There is like you feel in the air. There's these tensions.
You can, and it's you can actually taste it.
Yeah,
it's so real.
That's how real it is, and it's not covered. It's not talked about. So we decided, we have this platform. We're gonna bring this out to, who knows, maybe more will join us into the conversation, and we welcome that, because that is the whole idea of it, is to explain to how these tensions are impacting us as humans, because
Right.
any decision that is made on a government level, it trickles down to members of society, you and I, Ross, and all of us. So it doesn't matter whether you're in China, Russia, Venezuela, Cuba, you name it, doesn't matter. Coco Chanel. Well, that's a nice name. I like it. I really like that. I remember when I went to Paris last time, I went to Coco Chanel, the main store in Paris. So I just wanted to check it out. So thank you for being here. So what is your take on Bitcoin as a disruptor on the Western economic system? How do you think Western government will respond? Oh my God. See, this is what I like about our channel. This is what I like about you guys. And
what a huge topic, and we've been following it for a couple of years,
Yeah.
really quite closely. Matter of fact, we talked to Mark Moss about it.
exactly. One of our videos we're gonna release soon. It was an interview, one of the guys that deals with this, and you're gonna be listening to that. I'll highly encourage everybody to log in and listening into that sound. So, well, that's a very interesting question, and I'm gonna say it. Why not? I invest in Bitcoin. You do, Russ?
Yep.
Yeah. So we do, and as a matter of fact, the entire team is investing in Bitcoin. Why? Because this is where we see the change coming. And why is that? And again, I'm just gonna provide some short answers here, because I'm not a financial guru when it comes down to this. The idea of centralized versus decentralized. The Bitcoin, it allowed for that decentralization. In other words, you don't have to have an entity that can dictate how this will go. As long as you remember the 12 passwords in your head, you can take that money with you anywhere where you go.
There is one clear benefit to it, and that is with Bitcoin, the way transactions occur, governments are now held accountable for what they do, because they cannot control the money supply the way they currently do it.
Exactly. And the other part to this one here, to your question, is you look at two models right now. You look at El Salvador and you look at Tanzania. Okay. Why I'm mentioning those two, especially in Salvador? In Salvador, they made now Bitcoin a legal tender. In other words, it can be used. Okay. But here's the thing. When El Salvador reached out to IMF and the World Bank for assistance, because you have to have a mechanism, a system by it, they refused to help El Salvador. And what happened after that? The Central Bank of Latin America decided to step in and help El Salvador, which means what? That it's not if, as a matter of fact, now it's working, that soon you're going to be seeing countries in Latin America, Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay.
Places where inflation is going crazy.
Yeah, you're going to start seeing the use of Bitcoin. Same thing in Africa. And this is where the fear from those who wants to control the process, to control, I will use the term the world for that matter, having a problem with, because Bitcoin does not allow them that control. So
Yes, and our places, are countries going to be opposed to it? Yeah, because they lose control. And as a matter of fact, there's been some real pushback, but it doesn't seem to matter.
Yeah, exactly. And even in China, well, we're going to say it. You're not going to shy away from this. Even in China, like back in 2016, they banned Bitcoin. Okay, then a year and a half later, or 2 years, I think they allowed it. They just banned it again. So even for China is thinking, they have to take a stand. They can't be going this back and forth thing because and just to realize how important that is. Anytime something like that happened, it impacted the value of the. But rest assured, the value of the Bitcoin is gonna go up, no matter what.
It went up 300% just this last 12 months.
That's correct. Hanif, good to see you, Hanif, and thank you for being here. The question, my regard to David and Ross. Please tell to the Australian government this Chinese quote, don't put sand in your own rice bowl.
I think you can do it.
That would be, yes, I see your point. I see your point, Hanif. You know, it's yeah, it's very interesting, shall we say. Beryakov, good to see you, Beryakov. A few days ago, US just asked Israel to follow in pressuring China in Xinjiang issue. What is your comment on this matter? That's interesting. Well, interesting because, you know, a lot of people do not know that Israel and China,
they've got a business relationship.
They have a business relationship, but also have some military relations. Israel has shared some military technology with China behind the US back. So,
no.
yeah, they did. Yes, I can see that happening, but it's not going to work because Israel is going to have to think about its own interest. Yes, Israel is the closest ally to the US. That's a given. That's non-negotiable. But do you know also where to draw the line? You know, Israel is smart also to think about its own interest. They're not gonna. And with the new government in Israel, it's hard to tell right now how they're gonna proceed with that. So it will be interesting to see. Even though I'm leaning more towards they're not gonna follow up on that. Zachary Feta, good to see you here, Zachary. Question: could Turkmenistan ever emerge from its neutrality and join regional organizations such as the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and or the Euro-Asia Economic Union?
Most likely after the current government retires or dies. They've got such a firm grip on the country.
Yeah, I don't see them doing this now. The reason being because usually anytime you join certain organizations, there is a protocol as to certain standards, shall we say? And I just don't see them doing this one. What's going to work for them right now is the idea of a unilateral cooperation with individual countries. That doesn't mean it won't happen, but I don't see it at this moment. So it might take a few years for it to happen. So, and the reason being to that is because the first one, the Asian Bank, I think, or something, there is one entity where China has invested a capital of $100 billion into that fund.
Oh, I remember that, yeah.
Yeah. So Turkmenistan does not have that kind of wealth yet, but so I just don't see it happening yet. It's going to take time. Link, he, how do you pronounce it?
Is that H-E?
H-E. Huh. You know, well, thank you. Good to see you, Link.
That means among other things to drink.
Yeah, and thank you for being here. So, why the Western countries are trying to accuse China of Xinjiang instead of other place? Does it related to geopolitical relations with the Islamic world? That is
that's a good question.
A great question. No, it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with painting a negative image on a global stage of a country. So, because the more the negative image stick to the people's mind, the more you start to think about, oh, that's a bad country, that's this. It's a psychological more than anything else. Because here's the thing. Why haven't we heard the same thing about what just been discovered in Canada?
Even more graves.
Yeah. Why haven't we heard that about what's taking place right now in Yemen? And I've been in Yemen and I saw.
Two days, a matter of fact, it was yesterday.
Yeah.
I was in contact with someone who lives in Quebec. I was talking about this with them, and they said the Canadian people are really upset about it.
They are.
They're really upset at the cultural genocide, and they don't know what to do about it.
Yeah.
Of course, then it's too late now.
Yeah. So for
hundreds and hundreds of children.
You're right. So just to go back to your question, is the idea of just the West is trying to paint that negative pictures because, you know, usually when you see those are tactics. Most countries use those, but those are tactics usually used when you are desperate. And the problem we in the West in general, is we couldn't take this massive growth of China. That is like, it's almost like, it's like when you do track and field. Okay, let's say you are at the head of the pack and somebody behind you was third or fourth. All of a sudden it passes you and lets you behind. That's exactly how I compare this one here. We're having a hard time accepting.
It's a good visual illustration.
That's how I look at it. We're having a hard time accepting that China has passed that and left us behind. I mean, look at just in space. They just sent the
high-speed rail.
Yeah.
Mars, the space station. Just goes on and on. They're astonishing. So
when you embark on tactics like this, those are nothing but to paint a negative image. It's not going to stick. So because there are information coming out from other sources, and I watched some videos and I read some, and they couldn't confirm what the West has been saying. So I have not been there, so I didn't see with my own eyes, but I know how to read between the lines, and I know where to look for information. So that's where the challenge for the West. So Yang and Yang, thank you very much for being here, and thank you for your last comment. I just responded to it, so I appreciate you being here. So do you foresee any concrete actions taken against China following the G7 and NATO meeting, or will it be more talk than substance?
Oh, good question.
See, this is why I always say our viewers deserve the best, and that's why I had that respond to that individuals who sort of used some abusive language that is disrespectful to our viewers. I said, I won't tolerate it. No way. So thank you so much for that, and thank you to others. So great question. No, I don't see any. The one thing that now the the G7 wants to do is to impose the 15% tax. Okay? Well, guess what? Ain't gonna work, because some companies operate in China. They're not gonna move their operations out of China no matter what. We all remember a couple of years ago when the former President Trump wants to force companies to move their operations from China. It turns out to be too costly. I give you just a quick example here. This morning, it was an announcement in the United States that now there is companies are going out of business. The one that have been making masks.
Oh yeah.
Okay, they're going out of business.
Oh, that's
and why is that? Why is that?
Demand.
Well, also because hospitals here in the U.S. are buying the Chinese product. They're not buying the one from the U.S. So they're going out of business. That's why it's kind of they're just more rhetoric, no more, no less. They can talk all they want because Europeans need China. We need China as far as the market. So I don't see anything happening. All right, we do one more questions because Montu Mero, I hope I pronounced this correctly. Thank you for being here. So, is China going to usher in an age of no scarcity?
Oh my God!
Wow,
what a good question.
What a great question. What do you think, Ross?
I think it's really possible.
There is a possibility to that.
That thing of every business, we want it to be a win-win scenario. Yeah. We're not going to sit in judgment of you, the way you do things. We just want good business to occur.
That's correct.
And what we're looking at is any number of commodities are now within so many people's reach because of the low cost of them.
Well, yeah. Look at just the example I just mentioned about the mask here in the U.S. Hospitals are not
buying. And the Belt and Road Initiative, going into these places, helping them pull out their resources and sending back product. A whole lot of people are going to be pulled out of poverty with that.
Yeah.
And the Chinese have a pull them out of poverty model that's proven to work.
Yeah.
I don't know how, look at these numbers, you say 800 million people pulled out of poverty. Well, that requires a lot of exploration and definition. But what we know is a whole lot of people in China are living a whole lot better because I've been there and seen it.
You've seen it. So, so that's about probably within the next 5 years, we'll see the wisdom of your question. So there's a possibility.
You'll have an answer someday.
Hopefully so. Well, we wanna thank you so much. We're gonna have to leave because we have some recordings to do and prepare for next week, because we do a lot of research in providing this information. And just to recap about what we're gonna be doing with the show, we're gonna be bringing in guests now. So make sure you tune in and you subscribe to whomever does not subscribe, and please spread the word about the channel, because we want to grow bigger in order to reach a large audience to raise awareness. We're gonna also be doing the roundtable. Those will be very conversations like you have in your own home. We're gonna elaborate and explore other dimensions.
That's really the concept. Explore.
That's true.
In a very free environment. Let's look at this, not having to have the answers. Let's explore and get our thinking straight.
That's true. Well, we want to thank you. You enjoy the rest of your day, and we look forward to next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.